Never fear, everyone! Dr. Tekking is on the case!
Disclaimer, I am not a real doctor. Seriously, if you're gravely injured right now, please seek out a medical professional. What are you doing watching this YouTube video on weak devil fruit? Seriously, man, are you losing consciousness? Get help!
Okay, so I was looking at this chart, Tekking Tumble. I was looking at this chart, you know, trying to figure out a new idea for a One Piece theory video, okay? And this is honestly kind of a work in progress right now, but the point is, I decided to go back to devil fruits, alright? Now, devil fruits being the main source of superpowers in the One Piece manga, a lot of people have made videos discussing the strongest or the weakest devil fruits, and that topic in particular is something that I've seen plenty of videos about over the years. I know Grand Line Review did one, I know Joy Boy did one, I knew Too Spooky did one, so I decided to throw my hat in the ring. However, I found it kind of difficult because I was originally going to make it like, you know, top 10 weakest devil fruits, or even then top 5 weakest devil fruits, and after looking at all of the different fruits and the powers that exist therein, I came to the realization that with only a few exceptions, really, less than 5, there's really not that many fruits that are like super weak, because every time I thought I found a really weak fruit, an idea popped into my head like, well, actually, if these sets of circumstances are met, this fruit can become incredibly powerful, and I think that's what Oda was kind of going for here. None of the fruits are inherently weak or useless. It's the person that uses them, and the person that uses them might come up with some really clever idea on how to use it that maybe some previous users never did. I already mentioned this with Sabo, and the Mera Mera no Mi is by no means a weak fruit. It's a Logia, and I could, just by virtue, I could not put any of the Logias on this list. I mean, just inherently, they allow you to control an element and turn into said element. I mean, yeah, if you get overconfident and if you don't know about hockey like Carey Bow, then, yeah, shit could turn south for you, but still, the benefits greatly outweigh the negatives, where even someone like Carey Bow, who is an idiot, could manage to get that strong, you know? If Carey Bow did not have the mud fruit, do you think he would have gotten as far as he did? I don't think he would have, you know what I mean? So, there's no Logias on this list, but like I said, you could even take a ridiculously weak fruit, at least on the surface, and you could come up with some sort of set of circumstances that could lead that to be extremely useful. Like, I already made a video about the jacket fruit, because that's the one that gets cited a lot. Pretty much on all of those weakest devil fruit videos I was talking about, the jacket fruit is most likely mentioned, because, come on, it manages to turn you into a jacket, and the reason why it's regarded as so weak is because that the user themselves can't really do anything with it. They turn into a jacket. Jackets can't fight. Jackets don't really have high defense. Jackets cannot spring a 45 caliber revolver and just shoot things. You know what I mean? It's a jacket. It's very stylish, but nothing much beyond that. The whole point of that fruit is that somebody has to put it on, and then the effects of the fruit take hold, where you're able to basically control the person's body. So, yeah, that's a massive weakness to that fruit. But if you think of it like if someone like Shanks managed to eat the fruit and then Kaido put it on, that's the example I always use, it became, that's like one of the strongest entities that could ever exist in One Piece. Now, of course, the odds of that happening are very low. I'm just saying that even the weakest fruits might have an application for being great. So, the quest was on, my journey to find truly the most weakest fruits in the entire One Piece story. Most weakest. Yes, I'm a doctor. That's a definite term. Alright. So I'm just going to cut to the chase, and if you want to know the weakest one that I came up with, I'll tell you right now, straight up. Are you ready? It's the Yomi no Mi, Brooks fruit. But only when you're still alive. And I think that's rather inarguable that that is in fact the weakest fruit, because it does nothing while you're still alive. Once you eat the fruit, the only effect it has, the only effect, is that you won't be able to swim. You'll have the standard devil fruit weaknesses, you'll be weakened if you get into knee-high water or higher, and all that stuff, but aside from that, the Yomi no Mi, while you're still alive, provides no effects. You have to die once. Just once, don't worry. It doesn't require you to die like 3 or 4 times. Just die once. That'll get you where you need to be. But Imagine if you ate that fruit when you were like 10 years old and you lived to the ripe old age of 90. That is 80 years of your life where you cannot swim and you get nothing from it. Now, we don't know exactly when Brook ate the fruit. We know he died when he was 38 and then was reanimated, and now, 50 years later, he's 88. Well, after the time skip, he's 90. But he might have eaten the fruit while he was journeying with the Rumbar Pirates, so if he ate the fruit when he was like 33, 34, or whatever, a few years later he dies, it takes effect. It's actually kind of a useful fruit if you're a pirate, because you run the risk of dying every day when you're on the high seas, on the Grand Line especially. So, he might have eaten the fruit when he was a little kid or a teenager, or maybe only a few years before he actually died. But the point of the matter is, it provides you with nothing while you're still alive. And I guess unless you want to commit suicide and kill yourself and then get the powers right away, you're pretty much out of luck on that. You know what I mean? So, in terms of a devil fruit that you can just eat and it gives you nothing right at the get-go, that would be the Yomi Yomi Nomi. Now, after you come back, of course, it gives you a plethora of abilities, being to manipulate soul power and all that jazz, but you have to die first, and I think most people have like a psychological aversion to that. Especially consider Brook's case, you eat the fruit and you identify it as like, this is the Yomi Yomi Nomi, but you better make diggity damn sure that that's the right fruit. There's a devil fruit identification book, and it probably is like, based on the type of fruit it is and the swirl pattern, like, there's no mistaking the Oppie Oppie Nomi. I mean, look at it. It's shaped like a heart, a very distinctive shape. But other devil fruits kind of look similar, so even if the Yomi Yomi Nomi is categorized, and it's like, this is a fruit that allows you to come back from the dead, you shouldn't just immediately jump on that wagon like, whoa, awesome, I'm gonna go kill myself. Because if you, oh wait, sorry, no, that's actually the blue fruit. It allows you to, make people really sad. Dude, no! Oh, okay, well, you're really sad now. So, yeah, I mean, most people probably wouldn't just, off themselves to trigger a fruit instance, and even when Brook was lying on the ship and all of his crewmates were poisoned and they were slowly dying, I think one of them was like, hey, Brook, you have that fruit, don't you? And he's like, well, I've never died before, so we'll see what happens, but yeah. Alright, so on top of that, there's a bunch of other fruits that I'm gonna bring up that are not applicable for combat, but they're useful in other ways. Not every fruit is going to be useful if you're fighting against a really strong opponent like a warlord or something. If you rock up to Mihawk and all you have is like Mancherry's Chiyu Chiyu Nomi, which is the heal fruit, yeah, if Mihawk slices you right in half, I don't think you'll be able to heal yourself quick enough there, The same thing with Corazon's Nagi Nagi Nomi, the Calm fruit. That fruit is really not all that useful in a straight-up fisticuffs kind of brawl, but in terms of espionage and stealth and being an assassin, there's no better fruit for that. I mean, like, that's the kind of fruit that CP9 would just drool over. Like, if Khalifa or Kaku ate the Nagi Nagi Nomi rather than the fruits that they ended up with during the Enies Lobby arc, they would be incredibly adept assassins at that. So, I'm sorry, I really can't put the Nagi Nagi Nomi as like one of the weaker fruits, because Corazon showed, I think that was the whole point Oda was trying to make. Originally, Law thought that fruit was absolutely useless, but then, during the raid on the Barrel's, compound to get the Oppie Oppie Nomi, Corazon showed just how much panic you can incite with this. You can make the entire area calm, so people can't speak, and then, or they could speak but no one can hear them, and then you could set off explosions, you can make all the noise you want because there is no noise. All of a sudden, fire is erupting, and you're like, what's going on here? I can't hear. It's disorienting. It's extremely useful as a distraction and an assassination factor. So, yeah, the Nagi Nagi Nomi is definitely not one of the weaker ones. And then, even looking into it further, I discovered that even most fruits that don't have a combat focus, Oda still gave them some technique to fight with, even if it's not like a strong technique, like something. Like, for instance, Boa Hancock's Mero Mero Nomi, or Love fruit. The main focus of the Love fruit is shooting out that love beam and then turning people to stone. But Oda still gave her attacks to actually, inflict, damage over like a wide range or over like long distances, like Pistol Kiss or Slave Arrow. So it's not like the only thing that Hancock can do is that love beam. She has other techniques techniques, like her perfume femur, which allows her to basically just, whatever she kicks turns to stone immediately. There's Viola's glare fruit, which gives her clairvoyance, so she could see anything over a wide area, and she can also have, like, x-ray vision when she was, like, looking at Sanji. You know, she could look at him naked or just go even deeper to see his skeletal structure. So that's not a combat-focused devil fruit at all, but it still has a technique that she can fight with. Remember when she used her tears and summoned those whales? Not an incredibly strong technique, but it's something. So then I was like, okay, there has to be some devil fruits that have absolutely no combat capability, as in the user that eats them cannot launch an attack whatsoever. There has to be some fruits like that. And there is. I arrived at one that is actually just recently shown in the One Piece story, and that would be Bello Betty's Kobu Kobu no Mi, or the Pump Pump fruit, or the Cheer Cheer fruit. It's a fruit that's entire ability focuses around empowering others. So what Bello Betty does is that she just takes her flag and waves it and cheers on a crowd, and the crowd, you know, gets like an adrenaline rush, and their muscles start to bulge, and they get a little boost of power and confidence, and they start rushing at the enemy. So, in theory, if Bello Betty was going to face off one-on-one against an opponent, a warlord or somebody, and there was no one around her to help her fight, Bello Betty is a commander in the Revolutionary Army, so I'm sure she knows hockey and shit. Like, she's a capable fighter on her own, you know what I mean? I'm just saying that if you aren't a capable fighter, if you're just like a regular dude like me, and you eat the freaking Kobu Kobu no Mi, and you get into a one-on-one fight, and there's no one around to help you, your cheer powers are completely useless at that point, and I would just get decked in the face and get knocked out. You have to have some combat capabilities on your own, because you're gonna get nothing from the fruit, and it's only useful when there's other people around you, okay? Now, granted, we've just recently been introduced to Bello Betty and her ability, so, with that being the case, Oda might have given her some other kind of, attack focus. It's actually very similar to Perona's Horo Horo no Mi, whereas Bello Betty's inspires confidence and strength and positive emotions, Perona's inspires, negative emotions, and Perona had capabilities to do a bunch of attack-based powers with, like, her negative hollows and all that crap. So maybe Bello Betty has something else in the arsenal. We just never seen that before. Now, another fruit I arrived at was Shu. And I was debating whether to put Shu on here, because Shu has the power of the Sabi Sabi no Mi, or the Rust fruit. And I thought for a second, I'm like, well, it's a fruit that's really powerful against swords, or any sort of metal object, but if you fight an opponent that doesn't use a sword, or just uses their fists, or like a wooden club or something, the Sabi Sabi no Mi is pretty much useless, you know, so that's something that's very situational. However, this is kind of altered in the anime. We didn't get to see this in the manga, but in the anime, Shu was able to directly touch Zoro's flesh, and then rust began to appear at his joints, like at his elbows, so Zoro couldn't move. Now, as soon as Shu was blasted away by Usopp, the rust disappeared and Zoro could move again. I don't know if that's an application that Oda is going to include in the character. I would like to get to see Shu again, because I was kind of, you know, it was kind of out of left field where all of a sudden this random Marine captain we've never seen before, you know, just breaks freaking Yubashiri, and Zoro's like, what the hell? And then he's gone and we never see him again after that. So I'd like to see Shu again. But yeah, if it's the same way as it is in the manga and it can only work against metal objects, granted metal objects he has to physically touch as well, not a great fruit. If you're fighting against someone that just uses their fists or other devil fruit powers, or someone like Usopp that uses projectiles, the Sabi Sabi no Mi is not that useful. Against swordsmen, yeah, absolutely devastating, but yeah, that's situational. Something else that people have brought up is, what about Chopper's fruit? What about the Hito Hito no Mi, the human fruit? Yeah, it's great for Chopper because he was a reindeer and became a human, and then of course Chopper is a medical genius, so he was able to come up with the rumble balls and all that to add the spectrum of transformations and eventually the monster point. But what if an ordinary human were to eat the human fruit? What would happen then? Would it do nothing? Well, Oda has kind of addressed this, but in a joking way. In fact, in the SBS in Volume 20, when he referenced this, he said something along the lines of, yeah, if a human ate the human fruit, they would, you know, become enlightened, and they would have a better understanding of themselves, or something, or maybe not, I don't know, bye! So, I think that's Oda basically like, crap, I didn't think of that. Yeah, you get enlightened, Maybe. So, it's a joke answer, essentially. Like, I was wondering, like, what does enlightened mean? Like, if you're a human and you eat the human fruit, what is that? You're able to meditate, you can achieve nirvana? Can you enter Matrix bullet time and, like, dodge bullets? Do you turn and, like, activate the avatar state or something? Like, what does that mean? But I think it's fairly clear that Oda was just joking around and he didn't really have a serious answer for you. Still, it's a question I would like to get answered. Maybe not directly from Chopper, but what if a bison were to eat Dalton's fruit? Or what if an actual giraffe were to eat Kaku's fruit? You know, what would happen, if anything? We've never really seen that occur, and it's entirely likely that if it were to occur, it might have a similar effect as the Yomi Yomi no Mi when you're still alive. It takes away your ability to swim, but beyond that, it doesn't do anything. But keep in mind, when Chopper ate the human fruit, even when he goes into his heavy point, he doesn't really look like an ordinary human, you know? He still looks kind of like a Yeti or some sort of large ape. He has, like, more fur than a human usually does have. So I wonder that if you were a human that did eat the human no Mi, would you be able to turn into maybe a more primal, like a, you know, caveman kind of variety of yourself? Could it be awakened? Could you go into awakened zone form if you were a human that ate the human fruit? I can't see any reason why not. So I'm kind of dubious to put that on there, you know what I mean? Also, the human fruit does have a mythical variant, the model Daibutsu, which is really powerful. But, yeah, we don't really know much about that, and it's very confusing on exactly what you would be able to do if you were the same species that ate that fruit. Then again, keep in mind, there's more than just humans and animals in the One Piece world. You have a bunch of different races. What if a mermaid were to eat the Hito no Mi? Then that would be rather useful to them, or a giant. The giant could turn into a human, and you might think that might be less powerful, but hey, once again, you know, for certain applications, that would be pretty cool. Like when Lily ate the mini no Mi, and she can, like, shrink down to, you know, human size or whatever. So yeah, I mean, there's other races in the One Piece world, like Pudding. Pudding is a half-human. The same thing with Derringer. So what would happen there if they ate the human fruit, being only half-human? Like, if Pudding ate it, would her third eye disappear? Is that the only effect it would have? Like, she can make her third eye disappear at will? But if we're just talking about an effect that I find very encumbering, it does have an application in battle, but the circumstances required to trigger it are such a pain in the ass, and the effect itself isn't really all that great anyway. If someone was really going to ask me straight up, like, what do you think is the absolute weakest fruit, or the most, you know, useless fruit in terms of combat ability, I would probably say the Mato no Mi. Vanderdecken the Ninth's target fruit. Because, yeah, the effect is, on the surface, it sounds really cool. You can take any sort of object and then throw it, and then that object will automatically home in on the target that you have specified. And it'll keep on going until it hits the target. But that's not correct. It'll keep on going until it hits something, not necessarily the target. It would be one thing if that fruit allowed you to throw something and no matter what was in its way, kind of like Lilibero's ability, the X-axis from Bleach. Lilibero had that gun, and when he shot that thing, it didn't matter what was in between, point A or point B. It incinerated everything until it found its target. If the Mato Mi had something like that, where, you know, Vanderdecken could take an axe and then throw it, and it could break through walls, and it doesn't matter if Luffy tried to stop it, it would just buzzsaw right through him, and it just kept on going, broke right through the hard shell tower, and burrowed itself right in Shirahoshi. Okay, that would be a powerful fruit, but it doesn't do that. It can be completely blocked if someone or something stops it before hitting its intended target. So that's the one negative about it. The second negative is the requirements that you need to have in order to set up a target to begin with. Last week, when I did my video on, I just realized I'm a massive nerd. I'm like, last week, when I did my video on all the different Straw Hats and what kind of devil fruits they could have, I talked about Usopp, and many people said, why not give Usopp the Mato no Mi, Matt, because he's a marksman, and the Mato no Mi would allow him to target anybody right away, and I'm thinking, well, no, because already Usopp is a great marksman. He doesn't need the Mato no Mi. He can hit anything. And also, in order for the target fruit to work, you have to physically touch the target beforehand. That is some bullshit. So imagine if you're on the battlefield, Usopp is a sniper, he can't just use the fruit ability, like, while sitting at, like, a sniper's position. He has to go down and, like, hold on a second. Okay, see ya, Kaido. I'll be right back. And then he scurries back up the mountain and then starts shooting. Like, that would never be able to work in an actual battle scenario. Like, hey, Van Auger, how you doing? Before we start this sniper battle, let's shake hands. Alright, later. Like, that's not gonna work out that way. You know, it just won't. And it's limited by the number of hands you have. So, you know, if some sort of, like, multi-armed being in One Piece, like if it was like if Hachan ate the fruit, he has like 8 octopus tentacles. You know, if they had the fruit and then maybe they would be able to have 8 different targets, that would be a little bit better. But in Vanderdecken's case, it was 2 hands, so 2 targets. And he used one of them on Shirahoshi, which means he can only target one other person with his other arm that he could kind of change at will. So that's only 2 targets, and even when you throw something, it's not a guaranteed hit. That's a lame fruit. It's a really encumbering fruit. Also, I have a major problem with that fruit. Here's how it works, because there's just an inherent problem with how he explained it, okay? This is how Vanderdecken said his fruit works. He's like, I take my hand, I touch a target. Let's say this table. Touch the table. Okay, this hand is now permanently linked to this table, so I can pick up anything, and I can throw it, and it'll keep going until it hits this table, or it hits something blocking the table, alright? So, I'll pick up this pen, and throw it at the table. Wait! I just touched this pen. So, that means the pen is the new target. Alright, well, I'll pick up, this clipboard and throw that at the pen. Oh, wait. The clipboard is now the new target, because that's the way Vanderdecken explained it. He's like, anything that I touch with my hand becomes the new target. That's why he hasn't washed it in 10 years and always has to wear a glove. But the glove is also, well, isn't the glove a new target now? See, that's the problem I had with it, and that was something Oda maybe didn't even think of. He was just like, or maybe he did think of it, and he's just like, yeah, screw it, just keep going. So maybe it's like a certain length of time you have to touch the object, because, you know, whenever Vanderdecken touched Shirahoshi, she was like traumatized, because, you know, what happened around that time? Oh yeah, her mother died right in front of her eyes, yeah. So, you know, little toddler Shirahoshi was like, Mommy? And so Vanderdecken just kind of like the creep that he was, just like, and just touched Shirahoshi. So maybe he had to touch the target for like longer than 5 seconds, and then the target is permanently made. But no, that still wouldn't make any sense, because he's wearing a glove, like... But yeah, the Mato Mato no Mi is the lamest fruit, because it's a fruit that is based on combat. That's the only strength it has. It's a fruit that's meant to be used to fight somebody, but... it's the weakest in that entire group because of the conditions required to set it up and all of the ways you can block it. Not to mention the fact that the ability is completely dependent on the physical strength of the user, right? So, once again, if someone like Kaido were to eat the Mato Mato no Mi, it would still have the same weaknesses. Kaido only has 2 arms and 2 hands to target, and it could still be stopped, but Kaido's a lot stronger than Vanderdecken, so if Kaido took, like, if he tried to throw the Noah the same way Vanderdecken did, I mean, Vanderdecken throwed it, but he was really weak, so it took a really long time to get to where it was going. It moved at a snail's pace, but if Kaido were to try that, he's like, I'm gonna throw the Noah, and then it would probably rocket a lot faster based on his throwing ability. But other than that, for most people, yeah, Mato Mato is absolutely useless.
So yeah, I think I got all of them on here that I mentioned. Kinemon's fruit. Okay, that's another one. It's unknown, but Kinemon's fruit is the ability to put some sort of object on your head, and then using ninjutsu sorcery allows you to create clothing. And this is kind of a bad thing, because if you don't have anything around you to use as a stone, it doesn't have to be a stone, it could be a leaf, it could be a metal pipe, it could be a rock, anything. But if you're fighting in, like, I don't know, a room that has really no visible debris around you, then that fruit's kind of useless. And I figured, well, yeah, so far it's only being able to create clothing, like winter jackets and like suits and things, but what if he could create armor? You know, what if he could, I mean, we've never really seen him do it, so maybe he can't, but if Kinemon could create, like, really heavy samurai armor, because the only stipulation was, if you take off the clothing while you have it on you, it just disappears. But as long as you don't take it off, it's still clothing. Like, the winter jackets he created were still, like, really, you know, really comfy. They were winter jackets with, like, wool and stuff. So, if that's the case, if it's anything he could think of, couldn't he just, you know, I give you badass, you know, steel samurai armor, and then it's, like, really tough shit that your opponent can't break? I'm sure there's limits with that, and if you take off the armor, it vanishes, or if it gets destroyed, if your opponent, like, kinks it off, then it disappears, but that would be useful in combat anyway. I also put Tsuru's ability on here, the Washu Washu no Mi, solely because we don't know how it's triggered. From the manga, what happened is, like, some pirates were rushing at Tsuru, and then the next scene, they were hanging out to dry. We don't know if she has to touch them first, or if it's, like, an area effect, like the Oppi Oppi no Mi, where she's just like, Washu Washu, dearie, and then everybody around her just gets hung out to dry. We don't know how it's triggered, so there might be a factor with that, but that's everything I got. In terms of a fruit that does absolutely nothing, that's the Yomi Yomi no Mi while you're still alive, and Bello Betty's fruit that doesn't really do anything for yourself, it does only stuff for others. And then in terms of a fruit that's combat-based and just really shitty, we have the Mato Mato no Mi. Every other fruit I can think of at least some pretty good applications for. All the Logias are useful. Zone fruits, as long as you're just talking about physical strength, most of the zones are good. Or, you know, there's other zones that allow you to fly. So those are really pretty good. The only problem with zone is if you eat it and you're the same species as the fruit is. But we haven't really seen that happen, so we don't know what would go down. Maybe if a human ate the human fruit, they would be able to still awaken their fruit and do some monster point shit like Chopper did. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, other than that, those are the ones that I wrote down as being the most prominent. It's not really a top 10 list, it's just a generic discussion here, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video regardless, and let me know below on what you guys think are the weakest fruits in the One Piece world. Think about it like the weakest overall, and the weakest in terms of combat, and the weakest in terms of the conditions required to trigger the effect. Stuff like that. That's the way I went about it. All right, I gotta get back on this because this is something that really does requires my utmost attention. All right, so let's see, Opie squared times lightning and the badonkadonk